let's go ahead and get started. Um, we have uh, Babs Wise and Bert Holmes giving a presentation this afternoon on building a pipeline. In other words, establishing a program that will help guarantee that you have applicants for the Goldwater Scholarship year after year. Um, And let me also mention that next week we're going to have another presentation. We're going to have a presentation on the research essay, which is obviously a very important part of the overall Goldwater application. And then while it says on the agenda that December 17th will be a question and answer session, we're actually going to host another session for students. We'll be sending out an email to all the campus representatives announcing December 17th as a student session. They can bring their questions to the open house, and we'll have the reviewers here to answer any questions that they might have. So with that, let me turn it over to Babs and Bert. And again, they're going to be talking about building a pipeline of Goldwater scholars.
Thank you, John. Hey, everybody. Glad to be with you again. We thought that this might be a time in your Goldwater cycle to think a little bit about next year's applicants. Hopefully, you've already found some folks to apply this year and are already well working with them. But I always, when I was the CR, I always sort of tried to think in December how I could have done better in my recruitment that year. And so we hope this is a good time for you to talk a little bit about working with your faculty and administration to get you a regular source of nominees.
So we have an example here from Montana State that they have a very robust program, and they've averaged just over 3 scholars per year for the last 10 years, and have had a total of 92 scholarship winners since Goldwater started in 1989. And as you might imagine, they're not one of the top research universities that you would think of as you think of the really active research programs, but they have a very good program to identify Goldwater scholars early, or potential Goldwater scholars early, get them engaged in research, and then they eventually become winners of the Goldwater Scholarship. And Barry Goldwater was the senator for 7 or 8 terms. And as he would say, much more is accomplished working together. So this means that the STEM faculty and the administration have to work together. And one of the key components is engaging undergraduates early in their career in research. So when they apply for a Goldwater, they have a history of success in doing research in various STEM fields.
Mm-hmm. So today we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what a pipeline might look like. It's going to look different on every campus, but we sort of have some broad strokes on that. And then what does it mean to make undergraduate research a campus priority? How do you build a pipeline? What does it look like as you develop an undergraduate research program? And then possible pitches to the administration and faculty, and then also talk a wee bit about using faculty. And then, of course, we'll take questions at the end. However, we have someone ready to interrupt us at any moment. If you put questions in the chat, she'll pass them on to Bert and I so that we can answer in real time if that is helpful. Okay.
So when you think about a pipeline, we're going to talk about the freshman, sophomore, and junior year of the student. And during that first semester as a freshman, they need to learn about the Goldwater scholarships. They need to learn about research opportunities on your campus. And as you identify potential Goldwater scholars, I would encourage them to look at the application, the Goldwater application, which you can share with them, and have them keep a journal that addresses the various components of that Goldwater application. Then as second semester freshmen, they should begin to think about doing research, maybe looking for research opportunities during that summer between the freshman and sophomore year, or engage in research during the academic year with faculty who have an ongoing research program. As sophomores, they can begin to apply for a Goldwater uh, and continue to engage in research, think about research between the sophomore year and the junior year in the summer. That's typically done, or they typically do that during their second semester. Uh, they can think about presenting their work if they had research during their first year. And then, like I said, they want to line up these summer research opportunities. And then as a junior, the first semester, they can again apply to Goldwater as a first semester junior. And they can continue their research, building their program, doing more presentations, maybe their second semester of a junior year. And then they can think about applying to other prestigious scholarship programs, NSF, Rhodes, Marshall, Hertz, and so forth. So what does it take to create a pipeline? So early undergraduate research is essential. And I've taught at 3 different liberal arts colleges. The first one for 8 years, just long enough to get tenure and then leave. The second one for 15 years. And then the third one was at UNC Asheville, where I am now, where I moved there in 98. The second one was a small liberal arts college. It had no history of undergraduate research. And the advantage I had was I was the administrator in charge of all STEM fields. And so we made it a priority to have undergraduate research. And we found out that since we had very few juniors and seniors majoring in my field in chemistry, that we started working with freshmen and sophomores. And that's how we got our research started. It took about 10 years to develop a robust program. So if you're starting from scratch, it can take you a while to get that program going. Later on, I'll talk about my experience at UNC Asheville and how that developed.
Okay, so if you're building a pipeline, it requires a lot of things of a lot of people. So, the first thing is the strong administrative commitment and support. And one of the ways that you might encourage an administration is having an undergraduate research office. They can be such great partners and, really help the students learn about where research is. On my campus, they collected, faculty would contact them and say, hey, I've got spots in my research. Do you know any students who might be interested? And so it was sort of a matchmaking kind of opportunity. And I think sometimes when talking to administration, that research can be in the humanities too. You can kind of pitch it broadly to everybody that they can do research in many fields and that this office can serve all departments that way. I think it's also important and usually helpful if the development office is at the same time that you're developing this undergraduate research office is looking for people to fund research for undergraduates. And this often could be there are not many opportunities for freshmen and sophomores in the summers. Maybe your university can find a little money through development to sponsor some students either on your campus or sending them somewhere else. And then also the university has to be proactive in celebrating research mentors, okay? And that may mean, having it part of the tenure process, whatever it is, that will make research mentors on your campus be eager to participate. The STEM departments that are engaged in working with research need to be thinking about opening up opportunities during the summer or multi-week opportunities for the younger students. That's key to getting folks ready to apply for a Goldwater. And also, they need to look for research mentors and encourage research mentors. Um, it's just key to whatever is happening is to look for those mentors and to have the STEM departments actively, when they're thinking about hiring people, think about people who want to work with students in research opportunities. And then also STEM departments will need to be responsible for putting on opportunities for students to actually present their research. Students need the opportunity to showcase what they've been doing. And this could be, poster sessions, it could be all kinds of different things, but you need to, if the students don't have a place to present, it's really hard to talk about their research. And that will be important for both their graduate school as well as scholarships to have had a chance to present in some ways. So your role as the campus rep, what do you do as part of this pipeline? We think that doing a Goldwater committee for selection and mentoring of the students in the process needs to have faculty from different departments. Okay, you need some chemists, you need some biologists, you need a physicist, somebody in computer science. All of these different fields can really help the students in this pipeline, but also they encourage folks in their departments and other departments. Sometimes having a physicist tell the biologist how they're doing research in their area for young students can encourage the biologist to do something in their department as well. So, if you can get a variety of folks on that committee, it's helpful. You also have to be active in recruiting and nurturing these potential Goldwater scholars. Both Bert and I have said in the past, the earlier you can get to these students, the better. And so that means reaching out. I always did a session during orientation with freshmen. Now, we called it So You Want to Win Rhodes, but those students who attended that also we found in Goldwater processes and other scholarship processes. But trying to it had to have a sexy title to get somebody to come out to a non-required session during orientation. So putting the roads out there really helped. It's the one that students know. And so, once you find those students, keep nurturing them, encouraging them to build these journals. I used to tell every student starting as a freshman that, high school doesn't count anymore. So now you've got to build a resume that goes from here forward. And I called it the garbage resume. You needed to have everything you've done on this resume and encouraging students to do that. And then later, as we applied for things, going back and filtering those experiences was really helpful. So nurturing, it's a hard job and it's a long job, but it's very rewarding, I thought. And then, how can you and whoever you're working with encourage campus opportunities for presentations? I think John and I talked earlier this week about, poster sessions are great for students to have a chance to get stuff out, but can you do these in public places? Can you talk, whoever is planning the Board of Trustees meeting, into letting you know where that's going to be and then have a poster session right outside. What can you do to kind of get these posters out there? Because you're also talking, when students are doing these kind of presentations, other students, other faculty are walking by and picking up the excitement about research. And that's what you're really trying to foster. And then, of course, publicizing and celebrating as much as you can the successes of these STEM students, whether it be, they got a publication, whatever it is, you know, good press releases are a great thing. And the more, my office we had to write our own, but many places have offices that will work on that, and help you get press releases out as often as possible. And even if you only get a notice in the student newspaper or something, you're encouraging, and creating this pipeline in a great way. Okay. Bert?
So yeah, so I was going to add one thing to Bab said. So uh, I mentioned I was at the second college, and there we had a pretty robust undergraduate research program, and we knew that the board of trustees would go to luncheon in a special meeting room and then walk back to where they were having their afternoon session, and so we set up posters on a causeway outside the science building. And that worked great for 1 year until administration told us we couldn't do it because the trustees weren't getting back to their meeting on time. So just be cautious about, make sure everyone's aware of what you're doing. All right. So one way to convince the administration of the benefits of getting undergraduates involved in research early, been a number of studies, and one shows that it increases retention in the major because freshman and sophomore year is when students decide to continue what they're planning on doing, or they're exploring a variety of options. And the one that has research opportunities is oftentimes the most inviting to them. We also know that engaging undergraduates in hands-on activities early in their career has a large impact on retention of women and underrepresented students. And so that's another good selling point to the administration. And it also helps students figure out if they really want to go to graduate school and do research early or not. So if you only engage them as seniors, they're thinking, well, I've already applied to graduate school. I guess I'm going to have to go, but I'm not sure I really like this research thing. Uh, so it's better to learn that early. Although what I've found is most of them get so excited about it that they're going to graduate school from hell or high water.
Mhm.
Um, so if the pipeline is already in existence, so for example, for an R1 has a large collection of research active faculty, and the challenge then is to get them to engage undergraduates. One thing that I've seen at some R1s is you oftentimes have senior faculty in the twilight of their career. Their research is no longer of great interest to the funding agencies, but they still want to do research. And what I've seen is these folks oftentimes like to get undergraduates involved in their research. The undergraduates can have a great experience. I mean, they don't know that it's not cutting edge research right now, but it's still a very good training opportunity for those students. So that's one aspect of R1 faculty that you might think about. Um, so I mentioned that I came to UNC Asheville. I've been here 25 years. I came in 98. Um, we had a fairly robust undergraduate research program already in place, but it was for juniors and seniors only. And so sometimes to convince faculty that it's okay for freshmen to do research is a challenge.
Mhm.
And one problem we had was the organic chemist, which is organic chemistry is typically a sophomore year course. They said, well, no, wait a minute. we don't get a chance to meet these students. So we actually changed our curriculum. So first semester organic lecture was second semester freshman. And the organic lab wasn't until the sophomore year, but this got students exposed to organic chemistry. It kept the organic chemistry faculty happy because now they could recruit students to do research between the freshman and sophomore year. Uh, it also creates opportunities for undergraduates and graduate students to link up at the R1 universities or universities that have a master's program. And this is a great benefit to the undergraduates to see what graduate school is really like before they make that commitment to apply to these 10 different places and pick the one that's best for them.
And I will add that it's also good for the graduate students as they practice thinking about becoming faculty or on faculties. If they've got to teach, it's a good chance for them to learn to be research mentors early, and test out their careers as well. Okay, so how long does it take to build a pipeline? Okay. Um, Totally depends on your campus. Um, with continuous nourishment, you can kind of look for some. I thought of some milestones that you can kind of look at to see how it's coming along. Um, so, word of mouth among students usually takes 4 years. Um, I, no matter what, it just seems like it takes 4 years. So I moved offices at one point, and for students to regularly find me took them 4 years. By the time everybody goes, oh, she's in that office, as soon, by that fifth year, everybody knew where it was. Who knows? So, getting word of mouth among students about applying for Goldwater, about, needing to do research and any of that kind of stuff is going to take at least that much time, in my opinion. And so, give yourself grace. It's going to take a while. Um, and administrations can be quick to, sign on to working on these things. But every time a new dean or a new provost or something like that comes along, you may have to rebuild what you're doing. I ran a freshman program at Duke for about 10 years. And um, at one point, we got a new dean, and, funding time was coming, and he's kind of, who are you guys? And this program was really exciting. It was nationally known, all of those things. But the new dean didn't know it, and so didn't know to fund it. And I remember my boss, I don't usually talk about religion, but anyway, I'm a Christian, he was a Jew, and we used to always laugh about that. And he finally looked at me and came up with a statement out of Exodus about, a new dean arose that knew not focus. So, it's that kind of thing. If a new dean comes up, you may have to start over again. Be prepared always to do that in those transitions. And I think faculty word of mouth about what's going on and the importance of research can, it can come pretty early. They may have come from a campus or maybe Goldwater Scholar already. But usually just having a few successful students and knowing that students have succeeded in research and perhaps winning a Goldwater, a couple of those will help move that line along pretty quickly. Okay. And so we kind of came up, this is a slide that is just full of text, but we came up with sort of what it looks like for a pipeline to kind of go along. So, I think you can basically read this yourself, but, once the institution says that research is a priority, then, they start just kind of appointing people to help it. And then it just sort of comes along naturally. You'll notice that the development office doesn't usually come along till later, much as we'd like them in at the beginning. But it does take a little while. And eventually, the departments and the colleges really understand that a research-rich curriculum is critical to what they're doing and to learning outcomes, etc. Okay. Um, so, if you're on a campus and you want to start building this and you haven't done it before, um, the first thing you got to do is some research yourself. Okay. Where does research fall in the university's strategic plan? Can you kind of look at what the plan for the university's long-term development is and see where you might talk about research? Is it under learning outcomes and the university saying they want to improve X, Y, and Z learning outcomes? Okay, so there's a natural hook to go in. Another hook is, what STEM professors are in the administration? Do you have a provost who's a biologist? Do you have, a dean of a college who works in physics? Kind of look around, and those folks can, you can sit down and have a conversation with them, and they will help move this along. And then you also need to figure out, of the alumni coming out of our school who have had success in research fields. Have we turned out some faculty somewhere? Did we have Goldwater scholars in the past? Has somebody won a graduate school award? How are we doing getting students into graduate school? Get that data together. If you have an office that collects data, I forget what they're all usually called, but there are offices at every university that collect data. Who are they and can they help you pull this together? And then also, what usually got my administration moving was when I talked about our peer institutions. What are they doing? Okay. And then, look at their success over there. We could do it too. Okay. And so, sort of, taking a look at other schools and how they support research, and then you can bring that back to your school. One of the places I often did this was through the National Association of Fellowship Advisors, where I'd call up somebody at another university and just say, hey, what are y'all doing in this field? And that was really helpful to me.
Before I start about the faculty pitch, I want to emphasize what Babs just said. All institutions have a set of peers that they want to be like. If you can find one of those peers that is producing a lot of Goldwater winners every year and tout them to your administration, that can be very, very effective.
We're all
So,
competitive.
yeah, that's right. So when I came to UNC Asheville in 1998, I mentioned I'm a physical chemist. I teach a course to juniors and seniors, and I came to UNC Asheville. I had an RUI NSF award. It had spots for 4 students. Unfortunately, there were no PChem students that year, and so I realized I'm going to have to recruit from the freshman class. And so I began recruiting freshmen to work in my research team. And I got 2 freshmen and 2 sophomores that first year. And then I realized, well, I could have these freshmen continue a second year, the sophomores do a second year, the freshmen then often did a third year. And out of that first group of 4, 2 of them became Goldwater scholars. And so this laddered approach where later in my career, I had a total of 8 students funded from my NSF awards, and I would have 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, 2 juniors, and then 2 spread somewhere throughout that. And I told these students, now I expect you to work 2 summers. And what I found was if they did 2 summers of research with me, they almost always got a research publication in a peer-reviewed research journal. And that makes them much more competitive for the Goldwater Scholarship. It also provides an opportunity in your research lab for the second and third year students to mentor the first year students. And so what I would do I'm an experimental chemist. I would spend the mornings in the research lab during the summer, and the afternoons I would say, now look, I've got to go write papers, I've got to write proposals. So if you have a problem, try to settle it in the lab first and only come to me if it's really, really important. And so that actually provides the upper level students a chance to function as mentors. And if you have graduate students, they can do the same thing. And this laddered approach increases your success. It results in more publications, more presentations, and more external funding. So what I found was that this provided me a chance to continually fund my RUI research awards from NSF. And of course, those are what can give you tenure and promotion and a variety of accolades at your institution.
Mhm.
And you can also point out to researchers at R1s that undergraduates are a relatively low cost avenue to have more researchers do work. And that can lead to more administrative support as well. So no matter whether you're at an undergraduate institution or an R1, getting students involved in your work can be a benefit, a great benefit. So how do you use faculty? Well, you can look at the presentation that Babs and I made on September 24th. It's actually on the Goldwater website under open houses. And the actual date there, September 24th, is how you identify it. And you can use, so that talks about how to create a Goldwater campus committee with faculty. You can use faculty to recruit and nurture students. So when I was the campus rep, I would go to the freshman classes and ask in the first day or so of the semester if I could make a 10-minute presentation about Goldwater. And so students and I could come see me if they were interested in becoming a Goldwater scholar. And you can use faculty to identify good research mentors or good programs for students. So for example, there are students that want to apply off campus for an RU experience. And so faculty can help you identify that. Um, you can use faculty to form science clubs and to establish undergraduate research journals. They're a great place for Goldwater applicants to present their results for the first time. And of course,
Okay, I'm sorry.
faculty talk a lot, so they can publicize to other faculty. That's it.
Okay. So, you know, gratitude is the most important thing, I think. It's a hard part of the job, but everyone who's helping these scholars become scholars, they're doing it, for not much. They're writing a letter of recommendation that takes time. They're helping to set up an undergraduate research thing. They're serving on one of your committees. They're promoting whatever. Um, and there's no real money involved in any of this. So making sure that you become the person who gives gratitude all the time will take you a really long way. And we've said this before in one of our other presentations. Thank them. If you've got any swag that you can come up with, that's great. Um, if a faculty member helps you on a committee or writes a great letter, can you in turn write a letter to their dean and tell the dean how much this person helped you? Um, that's always great. Feed them. Um, Anybody who, is there a way you can at a committee meeting or whatever, come up with a little food. I spent years because I didn't have a budget for it, baking brownies and taking them to meetings. Okay. You do what you have to do. And I always figured, it cost me about $2.50 to buy a package of brownie mix and I could make it at home. So, that worked pretty well for me. Um, but make sure you're shouting, the people who help you, shout their names from the rooftop any way you can. And, can you come up with a recognition event for both your undergraduates and their mentors? And have folks from the administration speak at this thing. That brings them before the administration again. The administrators have to kind of bone up on what these kids have done. And it, helps your office in a lot of ways as well, or your work as a CR. Um, and then always, always, always remind students to list on their Goldwater application who their mentors are. They are listed on the Goldwater website. This is a great thing, that they can point to and be proud of later. And if you have a winner, you want to also make sure that in the press release, you mention the names of the faculty who nominated them. Okay, because then all of their friends are going to see that they're involved in this kind of thing and they'll be more eager to help you the following year. Um, further points, as you talk to your campus, good press is good for everybody. University press is just really, really important for everybody. You get donor support out of it. It spreads the name of what the program is and what you're trying to do. Um, Again, scholarship numbers, the number of winners that you have every year of Fulbright, Rhodes, Goldwater, Truman, all of those things are included in the data for US News and World Report and for Forbes. So, think about that. And again, early wins. Goldwater is what I always considered an early win, along with Truman and Udall. Um, these early wins can lead to graduate fellowships. 9 times out of 10, my students who won a Marshall or a Rhodes or a Churchill had also won a Goldwater or a Truman or a Udall. So, that's really important. It also looks excellent on their application to graduate school. And again, the numbers of folks you'll get into graduate school is quite important. So, ways to sell that you need a strong undergraduate research program at your university and pipeline is really key, I think. All right. So, questions and comments. We can open the floor. Carrie, if you haven't collected anything, we'll be glad to take that. And I'm going to put up the slide with our email addresses on it while we wait for those to come in. Both Bert and I and Carrie on here and the other consultants are always available to talk to you, to walk you through any of this. If you just have general questions or concerns, please reach out. We're here to help you. And now I will stop the share if everyone's had a chance to look at that. And we will kind of be able to have more of a conversation if we can see each other. Okay. Carrie?
Well, right now there aren't any questions in the chat, but let me raise a point and ask you. You've talked about how important an undergraduate research culture on campus is important to the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it for the institution to have a scholarship office, something identifiable for the students to learn about Goldwater and other opportunities?
You're asking a member and a past board member of the National Association of Fellowship Advisors, and I certainly would encourage campuses that have the ability to join. I forget, it's what, $300 a year or something. That it's really critical, I think, for someone on every campus to kind of have a knowledge of all of the scholarships and how they all fit together, so that you can bring the student to your office who might have done research in chemistry, but is really also an environmentalist, and make sure that they're also applying both to Goldwater and to the Udall at the same time. You know, knowing all of the things can really help, I believe.
Maybe there's a CR here who doesn't have uh, an office per se, but they can talk about maybe how they've provided or promoted visibility for the Goldwater scholarship on their campus. Or ask any other question.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we don't have a whole lot of questions. And so I did have one for John.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And John, I just wanted to make sure that you let folks know that there'll be another link for the students. Is that correct?
Yes,
For the student session?
on December 17th, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to have another student session. And so we'll be sending along a separate Zoom link that CRs can share with the students, and the students can bring whatever questions they have pertaining to their Goldwater application, and get answers from Carrie, Bert, you, in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And so encourage students to come. We will be sending out an email to all the campus representatives announcing this opportunity for the students.
Thank you.
And let,
Babs,
let
I'll
me
just,
also,
oh,
oh, go
go ahead.
ahead.
Carrie?
I just was going to point out from the chat from Brianna that she didn't have any questions, but she's just thinking about the time and capacity to get this done. And you did say it's a 4-year process or not an immediate transformation. So,
You got to help the students that are in front of you right away. And use your downtime to do the other things. Unfortunately, I, yeah, it's a hard thing to balance all of it.
and
I would say that if you're a Goldwater campus rep that's in the STEM field, the time to think about that is in the spring semester because you're
Mhm.
far too busy in the fall getting all the applicants together.
Yeah.
But think of this as a multi-year. I mean, it took us at my second institution 10 years to build a good undergraduate research program. So
Mhm.
don't think of this as this year, next year. Think of this as 5, 8, 10 years away.
Yeah.
another comment from the chat from Nazreen. She was talking about outreach being important, and in particular this year, word of mouth was particularly successful because they had a Goldwater recipient,
That's
and
always key.
that particular student sent over 5 students to her to apply, and she commented that she believes he is part of multiple STEM clubs on campus. So that's a great way to get the word out.
Right. Winners beget winners is what, if you can get one on your campus, then you'll get more.
One thing I've found in talking to campus representatives is that there are a lot of faculty out there that are unaware of the Goldwater Scholarship.
Mhm.
And so trying to, educate them about this opportunity for their students. If they're already doing research, they're really missing an opportunity if they're not encouraging their students to apply for one of these scholarships. It raises the visibility, not only of the students, but of the faculty's program that give these students this kind of opportunity. So getting the word out to not only the administrators, but the faculty too,
Mm,
about this opportunity. Yeah, Goldwater's been around for 40 years, but still there are faculty out there that are unaware
right.
of this scholarship opportunity. And it's a building block. It's an important building block for other things yet to come. The
Mhm.
NSF Graduate Research Fellowship, HERTS, graduate school applications, whatever these students do to prepare themselves for Goldwater, we've said time and again, is preparing them for these other major opportunities,
Right.
which the faculty want to see their students win.
Right. One good place I found for outreach, sometimes it's hard to get to all the faculty. I was at a fairly large place. Um, but I going to the advisors of the first and second year students, we did primarily, they're changing it this year, but we did primarily a volunteer thing. And there were, 300 folks who advised freshmen and sophomores. And it was a really great thing. I would just take 5 minutes at the annual meeting and say, hey guys, if you've got promising students, we need to see them. And, I want to see them whatever they're doing. I spent a lot of time with some students that weren't, going to be winners of any of these awards, but it was a good experience for me and I hope for them.
And I guess I'd also like to say that the laddered experience for the students is very productive. I did that back in the late 70s and early 80s when I was mentoring students. And it basically helped me get tenured and promoted. We basically published everything when students can work multiple years on projects. Generally, they always get presented, and some of them even get published. And that was certainly my experience, much like what Bert described a few minutes ago. So that approach also makes them more competitive for Goldwater, and they have something to present for when they apply to graduate schools, that the work they've done has resulted in publications and presentations, and that gets them offers.
Mhm.
Do we have anything more in the chat?
Nothing more in the chat,
Okay.
except thanks.
Well, then I think we should thank the folks for coming. And next week is the research essay, which is a very critical piece of the Goldwater application. You don't want to miss that. And then the following week will be the session for the students. And then after that, we're all taking a break for the holidays. So see you next week.
John, can you hang on a second?
Sure.
So I had a question from a campus rep that I think I know how to answer.